him. Whitlow rolling right on a keeper. Up across the 15. Cuts left at the 20. On Saru at the 30. Headed to the near sideline. One man to beat. Makes the move at midfield. Coming to the near side at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Kentucky.
And we welcome y'all into another episode of Believe in Kentucky. My name is Vinny Hardy. Got Aaron Gershon from thecatspaws.com. Jalen Whitlow, former UK quarterback. Fellas, how's it going this evening?
Good, man.
Yeah, man, it's good. Still down in Florida, doing some family stuff down here. Obviously, just went up to Jacksonville, and next stop is Gainesville on Friday. So a lot of stuff happened, but pretty good.
Hey, good stuff, good stuff. So, yeah, we got to recap. Glad you're getting to enjoy the rays and the nice weather and the waves and the beach and all that. But we had the gut punch of the bowl games. We had to talk about that. Got the Cats starting SEC play, like you mentioned, Saturday. The first real road game at Florida because Louisville was basically a home game. So college football playoff, got national championship Monday, all kind of stuff to get to, man, all kind of stuff. But we gave Clemson CPR, had them on the ropes, and instead of knocking them out, we put the defibrillator on their chest and said, come on back in this game and y'all go ahead and win this, basically.
Yeah, it felt like one of those old Kentucky football games, right? Where they find a way to kind of disappoint and lose. But first of all, that game was just it kind of, I don't know. It was just nuts. It's hard to describe that game. 42 points in the fourth quarter combined. What was it? 5 lead changes in that quarter, 9 overall, I believe. It was just it's what bowl season should be. So at least you got to give credit to both teams for laying it all out there and bringing it. But from Kentucky's point of view, that's one that's going to sting a while, man. I mean, it starts – I know we'll get into the Brad White and the soft coverage stuff, I'm sure, but it starts with 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter. I mean, you're not going to win a game, more likely than not, if you do that. And 3 of them, I guess I'll excuse the one at the end of the game where you're just trying to make something happen, 17 seconds, you throw a pick, whatever. But the strip sack was avoidable. Barry Brown trying to get extra yardage, didn't tuck the ball. That was avoidable. We've seen so many passes tipped at the line all year long, and finally one got picked off there. So that's where they lost the game. First and foremost. And then obviously, the third down defense was an issue all year and it caught up to them again. But this one, I think, you score 35 points, 28 on offense. You do a lot of good things, but, this loss at the end of the day is on the offense. When you look at the turnovers and the fields that short fields that Clemson was able to score on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you said, the turnovers were, the big thing in my eyes. I didn't have too much of a problem, with the defense playing soft coverage. Now, that term is relative because, to Kentucky, sometimes soft coverage means like nowhere in the vicinity of the receiver. But at the same time, you can't turn the ball over. But I just this is one of those losses that they're not gonna get over that one because you play a Clemson team who is kind of decimated, man. They don't have nearly what they had, in week 1 through 11 or 1 through 10 or 1 through 12. So you play a decimated Clemson team and you let them off the hook. You beat yourself. You don't look like the most well-coached team on the field. That's always always bothersome for coaches, man, because, again, I thought Kentucky was the better team going into that game. Just roster-wise, they were the better team on paper, with everybody returning, whatnot. So, it's just one of those losses that you don't get over, man. They got to find a way to be more disciplined. Sometimes you have those games or those years where for some reason the ball's just on the ground too much. But you got to try to find a way to cut that out, because at the end of the day, we all know this and we all kind of said this, at Kentucky, you don't have very much room for error when you're playing good teams. You just don't. That's just the reality. So you got to find a way to eliminate the mistakes where you're beating yourself. If they do that, then they got a shot. They got a good team coming back. But it does, a very, very sour note, has been sent to Kentucky football this offseason. So they got to try to shake that off within the next couple of months or within the next couple of weeks, I should say, and get this thing rolling because, you got offseason workouts starting pretty soon and guys coming in via transfer portal, got freshmen coming in, getting started. So you got to shake it and get on track and kind of move everything to 2024 and spring ball. But, it pays to go into the offseason on a good note, beating a team like Clemson. But so I know the coaching staff disappointed, but they got to find a way to shake it.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, AG.
Yeah, and I think the most disappointing part of that defense in that last drive, it wasn't even that. You're right. Jalen were the relative with the soft coverage, and Mark Stoops rather explained that they were trying to protect some of the backup corners at that point in the game. Max Harrison was out. Andrew Phillips had gotten hurt on a 2-point conversion play, so you're down to Jordan Robinson, J.Q. Hardaway, and Jansen Dunn. But the truth of it is, Jansen Dunn really played a good game, and so did Hardaway. I know Jordan Robinson's kind of struggled all year. But the thing that bothered me most, it wasn't even the coverage. It was you had 8 sacks and you brought no heat. You're rushing 3, and they didn't bring any heat on that 3rd and 16, 3rd and 18. And on 2 plays before when you got the intentional grounding, it was because it was a corner blitz and Jansen Dunn made Klubnik throw it away. So I just didn't understand, why would you go away from what's working for you all game long? I mean, this pass rush has been up and down all year outside of Deion Walker. And this game, 8 sacks, 2 from JJ, who, credit to him. He really played well the last 2 games of the season. A sack and a half for Deion. We all know how big of a superstar he is, but Octavius Oxendine had a great game. Trayvon Ripka has been coming alive lately. I don't think he had a sack, but he was super involved in the pass rush. There was a lot of good things from that pass rush. And at the end of the game, when you need 2 more plays, you go away from it. So that's what drove me nuts a little bit.
Absolutely. Coming to y'all live streamed on Twitter. Follow us at Believe in Kentucky. YouTube page, Believe in Kentucky Podcast. Facebook, Believe in Kentucky, BLEAVINKY. Already got a comment. AG already responded to it. But we'll get John Sanders highlighted up there. Got his comment. What are the chances we get AJ Harris from Georgia? So I know you're going to get to that. Appreciate it, John. And y'all subscribe, follow us at all those platforms. We also got merch like we talked about last week. Got the Cat Daddy shirts. I don't have it here, but go to shop.believe.com, shop.beleav.com. Search Cat Daddy, get yourself a Cat Daddy shirt available in blue, white, or gray. And we appreciate y'all interacting on all these platforms and checking us out. So thank you, John.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, obviously, and I know that's kind of the hot topic going around on message boards apparently tonight, and our message board at the Cat's Paws. And all I can tell you, well, first of all, just to explain who AJ Harris is, 5-star prospect out of Phoenix City, Alabama, last year, cornerback. Only played in 5 games on defense this year at Georgia, but I mean, a 5-star prospect just coming out of high school last year. So 3 years of eligibility left, and 247 for what it's worth has him as the 7th best player in the transfer portal. Right now in the 2nd best cornerback, only behind another former Georgia guy, Nyland Green, who's already signed with Purdue. But I got a screenshot. I think it was on one of those message boards where a Georgia reporter apparently likes Kentucky there. And I did some digging, and what I heard is Kentucky, I wouldn't call it a lock by any means, but I've heard Kentucky is indeed involved. It sounds like, from talking to other people, they've been trying to downplay it a lot to probably keep schools off the radar there. But it does sound like Kentucky is a possible landing spot there. And it would obviously make a ton of sense. I mean, AJ Harris would fit an obvious need. I mean, I think it spoke a lot that Kentucky didn't quite trust Dunn, Hardaway, and Robinson at the end of that game there. They need a corner. Andrew Phillips is going to the NFL. Max Harrison will be back, but you need someone there across the field. And that's a high 5-star guy with 3 years of experience who also was a high school teammate of J.Q. Hardaway. So there's a connection right there. And then you obviously get, Jamin Dumas-Johnson and Brock Vandegrift, who were with him at Georgia. So, that it logically seems like it makes sense. And I have heard some rumblings. I wouldn't say it's a done deal. They have a silent commit or whatever, but I've heard some stuff that UK could be the landing spot, and we'll see what happens. I know Auburn had been super involved in it early. That's kind of fizzled out. I know Penn State is still very much in the mix, but it does sound like Kentucky is involved there, and that would be, at least on paper, quite the get for probably I'd say that and right tackle, the two positions they must address here as the portal. Now the portal's closed for undergrads. A couple more days for guys who played in a bowl within the last 5 days, but they still got to add at those two positions. They're still going to have some attrition, in the spring, and maybe even guys who've already graduated that can pop in at any time. So, that's what I've heard to sum it up.
Are you familiar with him there in Phoenix City coming up through the high school ranks, Jay?
No, I'm not familiar with the name, man. I know where Phoenix City is, and they just won state this year.
They're a monster program. UK's
no
gotten
doubt.
a lot of guys out of there.
Yeah, Bo Nick's dad is the head coach there. So, my head coach from high school used to be the head coach there. He won a state championship there as well. So, powerhouse program. Probably, I would say that city has pound for pound probably the best players in the state. It's just ridiculous what they produce every year.
It is.
But I never heard of this kid, to be honest with you. However, if he was at Georgia and he had a scholarship at Georgia,
and he was a 5-star.
Yeah, I would say try to get him.
Yeah, no, and this is a school that obviously, again, Kentucky has familiarity with that high school. J.Q. Hardaway played there with A.J. Harris, Josh Jones, an offensive lineman who was with them. Is he still on the roster, Josh Jones? I know he had a season-ending injury and missed 22. He might have hit the portal after last year. I can't remember, but that was a guy out of that high school. So yeah, he's not with the program anymore. But they've had success with that city in the past, and again, logical fit, position of need, fits the prototype, tall, long corner, and Kentucky's got a couple of Georgia guys already coming in signed. So. We'll see. This is not, recruiting. It's always changing, man. Even in the portal, I saw, just as an example today, Jalen Kimber, former Florida DB, committed to Louisville a couple of days ago, and then he's visiting A&M this weekend. So, like, even the portal guys, when they're committed, you got to wait till they're on the dotted line. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it.
Most notably known to Kentucky fans for getting ran over by Ray Davis.
That guy.
Touchdowns.
Maybe he just doesn't want to have to play Kentucky again this year.
I didn't have to do him like that, but I mean, that's.
I'm just I didn't mean to dig at Louisville even there. That was the latest example of a guy. I know there's been decommits and commits in the portal season already going on. So it's these portal kids just want to be a high school recruit one more time when it comes to that one. So it's just wild stuff out there.
Be a high school kid one more time, man.
Hey man, what about the kid that went to Purdue from Georgia, man? I mean, that bag must have been. That bag must have been
that's a great question, Nyland Green. I didn't really read up on him much. He's from Georgia too, so it's not like he's from Indiana or the Midwest. So obviously they have a defensive-minded head coach there with Ryan Waters. But yeah, that was interesting.
Somebody wrote a check, man.
Yeah, I mean, I will. Yeah, that's probably what it was. But I will say, I mean, Syracuse, they obviously hired Fran Brown, who was Georgia's defensive backs coach, and they're cleaning up in the portal, both with ex-Georgia guys, ex-SEC guys that Brown recruited. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to do a deeper dive into Purdue staff to rule out anything other than money there. But, these connections mean a lot at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen it benefit Kentucky many times with the missed recruitment initially, but you get them on the backside after they go a couple years, Wandale and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And you think maybe everybody would do that, but they probably don't, and they probably aren't. But that's one of, the things Marrow and those guys, they consistently never burn bridges. I know that was some bad English right there, but they keep the bridges, intact, even if it doesn't lead to a recruitment coming out of high school, a commitment coming out of high school.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And that's something, Vince Maros talked about. That was something last year that J.Q. Hardaway, who we've mentioned a lot here today, has talked about. I asked Mark Stoops about it, and he talked about it, early on signing day. But, I mean, just from this cycle alone, Jalen Farmer, the offensive lineman from Florida who signed with Kentucky, he was the guy that Kentucky recruited out of high school. Chip Trainum was the guy that Kentucky recruited out of high school way back when he ended up going to Arizona State. And then last year's cycle, Ben Chrisman, the offensive lineman who will get back from injury this year, was the guy they offered. So there's countless examples of that with Kentucky in the portal of going back and finding those old phone numbers and kind of rekindling some relationships from the high school recruiting trail there.
And they, gotten a lot of bang for their buck with the portal.
Yeah.
With the guys that they do get from the portal, they've played, they've come in, been productive, gotten on the field and contributed. And their track record in that department has been pretty strong too. And coming from big name schools. And now you add Georgia, Penn State, LSU, Auburn. Ever since the portal's been a thing, and you old as I am, you remember when Kentucky's beating out Kent State and EKU for talent, and now a kid from Auburn is transferring to Kentucky, LSU is transferring now Georgia. So it's still you still got to iron out the little details and not beat, but you still the stockpiling of talent is continuing to still be at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the class they have coming in right now, I mean, I know Jamori Macklin, his best 2 years were obviously at North Texas, but he's a guy who out of high school had a ton of Power 5 offers and obviously started over at Missouri, where his cousin was a star there. And, like you said, a couple of Georgia guys in this class, Florida, Texas A&M, they're taking talent from pretty big schools. And there's still some group of 5 guys they're interested in. Today they offered 2 guys from UAB. One, the wide receiver, is actually from Frankfurt, started this year for most of the year at UAB. They offered a corner from there. BJ Mays, I believe his name is. So, they're still trying to find some guys, some hidden gems maybe, but they are poaching a lot of big name, big school talent that is looking for more playing time elsewhere. And they're doing a pretty good job. And like you said, they have a pretty good track record. I mean, whether it's Wandale, Will Levis, Jaquez Jones, Kelvin Joseph going that far back. I mean, they're having success when they get here.
Jaquez and Kedron and Rosenthal. It's just been pretty good track record, man. So that's good to see him get.
Yeah, Ray Davis, he's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Got invited to the combine, so I'm tweet that out. So that's
that's good.
As big as it gets. That's the biggest honor he can get. Not that in the Senior Bowl, and he's got both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's see. We've got that. What else? We had the high school game today. Ice beat Fire 39-3. We had the Corbin kids were playing in that. The Smith brothers were there, and I think a couple other Kentucky guys were there.
One's got a broken wrist though, I believe, or something. Something injury.
One played, one didn't.
One played, one didn't. Right.
Yeah. So, but just good to see. You especially in basketball, everybody watches the McDonald's game, the Iverson game, and they got Kentucky kids in there. And now to see, it's in the Under Armour game, and I see, Kentucky commitments in that as well. That's good too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And what was pretty cool is a lot of those guys. I don't know about the Smith twins, but I know Brian Robinson, Cutter Boley, and then Hardly Gilmore. Those are the 3 that I know off the top of my head. They were all, and Clemson had a bunch of guys do it too. So I guess it's a new thing this year where these signees, whether they're transfers or high school kids, can actually go to these bowl practices and participate in them and kind of get acquainted with the culture and everything. So, it's cool to see a couple guys take Kentucky up on that. And, obviously they didn't win the game, but they played, it's tough to be too, the turnovers will drive you crazy with that Gator Bowl. And you're always going to remember that 3rd and 18, 16-yard chunk play. But clearly the preparation for that bowl game led to a pretty positive result. I mean, if we want to go back to that for a second, the wide receiver play. I mean, Barryon Brown and Dane Key balled out. And those were 2 guys that we talked about at length last week. Like, they need to take advantage of playing a bunch of backup inexperienced corners and show, their stars. And that's exactly what both of them did. Jordan Dingle, fresh out of the portal with a 72-yard catch. So, and there were a lot of good things you could take from that game and bring into next year. It just would have been a lot sweeter if you could bring a win over Clemson, into next year. But again, the wide receiver play, that play by Dingle, the pass rush, like those are all things you need to put on tape and build on next year.
Mm-hmm. John, talking about, you just mentioned the kid from Frankfurt, the big kid from Frankfurt. Going back to the high schoolers playing and getting to go and practice at these bowl games and stuff like that, is that something you would have done, Jalen, if it had been a thing back then to go that early? And
I don't know, man, because the time is so different now.
And you ain't that old. You sound like you like 56. You sound like you're 56 years old when you talk about this stuff. Just a decade ago you were there. So I mean, I'm just saying, just for listeners.
But like Nick Saban said, man, there's more has changed in college football in the past 5 years than the past 50 before that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It was a different time. Like I remember in my class, I don't know if we had anybody who got to Kentucky early, who graduated early to come to school, go to college. I don't remember anybody. And to be honest with you, I'm against that. I don't believe in that. I believe that kids should enjoy the second half of the senior year. I believe that kids should go to prom. I believe that kids should graduate with the rest of their class. I believe that kids should enjoy baseball if they play baseball for their school, or play basketball, or run track for their school. I believe that they should finally get a chance, if they didn't play those sports, to be a regular student and hang out with the regular students in the school. Be able to, okay, I got a semester with no sports. All I got to do is work out and get ready for college. I believe that kids should do that, man. Everybody's rushing to the bag now. Everybody's rushing to whatever they deem is the next level. However, when they look back as adults, some of them may not, because they're probably getting the bag. But when they look back, they're going to be like, man, I missed out on a lot of stuff just to get to college 4 months earlier or 5 months earlier. So to be honest with you, I'm against it. Now, I get it, when kids want to get there and compete. But I tell these high school kids, man, college is going to always be there. You get a chance to transfer twice now. So what's the rush, man? What you rushing to? Like, be a high school kid, man. Like, a lot of people, wish they can do what you do. A lot of people wish they can, have a chance to just be a high school student again. And, so just do that. Like, what I'm saying? I'm not into the rush into the next phase of life thing. Like, enjoy where you're at, man. Be where your feet are. But it's hard to tell people that nowadays, because the money is too good. They go into these big schools and they're graduating early and they're getting paid, and, they promise this and promise that. And they're trying to compete for a spot, which I get. But at the same time, I kind of, obviously I'm not a college coach or anything, but I kind of miss those days where all the high school kids or the incoming freshmen showed up on campus the same day in the summer. That that used to mean something, man. But I know I sound like an old head up here talking, but at the end of the day, kids, these kids listen to this, or they hear this, trust me, don't rush to this stuff, man. Like, it's gonna be there. Like, enjoy where you're at. Like, I see all these kids, now in high school, and some of them sophomores in high school, and they're playing for their high school football team. And you check their bio on Twitter or IG, they don't even have their high school stuff on there. They have Ole Miss commit or X school, whatever, they commit to where. Like, who cares? Like, you're 15, dog. Be in high school and play high school football. Enjoy your high school teammates. Run track. Play baseball. Like, play basketball. Like, do that. Like, what I'm saying? Like, stop trying to rush this thing. Like, there's going to become a time in their life where they wish they can go back and do that stuff again. So, I always tell our kids, at the end of the day, I know guys who play on Sundays right now. I know guys who played on Saturdays, guys who didn't play on Saturdays or Sundays, and they always talk about what happened in high school football.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they talk about when they get together. So I know I'm going off on a tangent, but, somebody need to kind of slow, kind of pump the brakes on this thing, man. This thing is going a little bit too fast, in my opinion.
Tasha agrees with you. There's been a lot of changes, and it's sometimes hard to keep up. And
It is. I mean, I coach high school kids, and it's hard to keep up.
Mhm.
It is. Things are moving extremely fast, man. Like I said, they should stop calling this thing collegiate athletics now. I mean, it's just not. It's the G League. It's the it's semi-pro. That's what it is. Everybody's trying to rush and see if I can get that roster spot. Rush and see how much money can I get. Like it's not the same. I mean, I guess they go to class still, but I guess.
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so.
So we got all the football already.
Playoffs, man.
Yeah, no, we got to get through that.
All the Kentucky football already.
Yeah, no, we got. I don't think there was anything else. I think was it John that said, Fred Ferrier. That was the name of the wide receiver from UAB. I don't think there was much else. If anything can happen in this next 30 minutes while we keep going, but I think that pretty much covers Kentucky's front. Obviously, just to put a bow on it. Bowl game was what it was. It was very entertaining. I think I saw kind of a segue into what we're going to talk about, that it was ranked like the second most entertaining bowl game of bowl season, and that felt about right. So, hey, at least we didn't get – would have loved to have won, but at least you didn't get that Music City Bowl last year where you didn't score points and basically it was just a waste for everyone involved. So at least you got that.
Yeah, that's true. So Alabama falls short against Michigan. Washington outlasts Texas. That's the Texas, I'm sorry. We have a Washington-Michigan championship Monday.
Big Ten championship.
Yeah. Wow. That doesn't sound weird at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I guess I'll start with the second game first because I've gotten to watch Michael Penix a little bit. Those games are late, and sometimes if they're on at 9 and Kentucky plays a night game, I won't get to it in time. I saw him play obviously in the Pac-12 championship, but some of the throws he made in that game, man, holy cow! I mean, he doesn't miss. It's unbelievable, that kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you got to go ahead. Aaron.
The Washington receivers were well covered to me. I mean, I'm not
at times, absolutely.
DB's hanging all over him, getting the arm in there to separate, and he was throwing laser after laser. I was like, Texas cannot stop these dudes. No. Every time they go vertical, it's completion.
There was a touchdown he threw in the middle of the end zone where there were like 3 DBs there, and he threaded it right in between them, right to where the ball needed to be for a touchdown. I mean, that guy was just on another level. And Texas, like you said, I didn't think Texas played horrible defense, but wasn't enough. And I didn't think Quinn Ewers obviously had a great game. They kept showing Arch Manning. I was like, are we going to really do this thing? Are we really going to throw him in here? But obviously they didn't. And then, unfortunately, that injury with Dylan Johnson, when Texas got the ball back and I thought they were going to score. When they were at the 12-yard line, I thought, oh, my God, this is going to be the game where Dylan Johnson gets wrongfully blamed for getting hurt because he couldn't get up. And, they lose the game because of it. So, at that point, I was happy to see Washington hold on. It would have been terrible if that would have been the way they'd lost.
Yeah. Hey, man, but, kind of going back to the Bama, Michigan, I think it's the two teams that, at least the people that I know. And I told y'all that obviously I'm from the South, the deep South, and nobody, to be honest with you, really cares about Michigan or Washington. We thought that everybody around here thought that it would be Texas and Alabama. But I did say, and I tweeted this a few weeks back, I said, if Bama doesn't win it, Washington will.
You said it on here too, I think.
Yeah, if Bama doesn't win it, Washington's going to win it all. It's something about Washington. The head coach at the school that I coach at, he texted me during the game. He was like, because there's a school in Georgia kind of very similar to Washington. Like it just happened for them. They just make the plays when they're supposed to make them, and they just seem like a team of destiny, man. I don't know what it is. Well, it just seemed that way. They always find a way to pull it out. And people got to, and this is about to be the boldest statement on the planet right now. but Kalen DeBoer is the best coach in the country right now.
He's
man.
He's in the conversation.
He's like 110 and like 8 as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, dude, that's nobody has ever done that. Nobody has ever done that. So, what he's doing at Washington now, Washington has a good team. Washington is better than most people give him credit for when it comes to their talent. At offensive line, at receiver, they're really good. Running back is really good. Quarterback is the best passer in the country. Defense is good enough. But I think the way the quarterback is playing right now, it don't matter if the guy's covered or not. I sat there and watched his film from last year. I sat there and watched the games that he played this year. And it's consistent. It doesn't matter what you do on defense. It doesn't matter what coverage you play, who's on them. The ball is always placed with the ball.
Unbelievable.
I've never ever seen this out of all the quarterbacks that I've ever watched on film. I've never seen accuracy this good at this level, ever. I've never seen it. It's consistent, time after time after time after time after time, throw after throw after throw after throw. The most throws that I've ever seen him miss was maybe the Utah game. It was a rainy game they had this past year or this year. Or maybe it was one of those Oregon games, the first Oregon game maybe, where he missed some throws. But other than that, he's by far the most accurate college quarterback that I've ever seen on film. And I'm not even exaggerating, and it's not even that close. It is that impressive. Like I sit back and watch as a former quarterback, and I'm like, damn, man, that's a whole nother level. And I don't say this about many people, about many quarterbacks, but Mac Jones 2020 year, Michael Penix this year and last year, to be honest with you. Michael Penix balled out last year too. And there's one more who was like that a couple years ago. I forgot who it was, but I had a list of guys. I'm like, I've never seen this, and I watch film every day. I watch college film every day. When I'm not watching college games on TV, on Sundays I'm watching film. I watch film all throughout the week, so I can tell you about a lot of these guys. And he's the best pocket passer that I've seen ever in college football. And I'm not exaggerating. It is that impressive. I mean, it's just – and everybody makes good throws. Like everybody – you can watch everybody's film and like, man, that is exceptional. But it's the fact that he does it over and over and over and over with pressure in his face. It doesn't matter. Like, it's so impressive. I can't get around the fact of how impressive it is because I've never seen this at this level. So, look, if he played like that, there's no way Michigan win that game.
I'm with you, man.
If he plays that way, like he can play, and like I've seen him play, there's no way in hell Michigan wins the game on next Monday. I just don't see it happening. I just don't. How do you beat a quarterback that good? And he has 3 NFL receivers. 3 on the field. So how do you beat that? They're comparing this team to LSU's team back in 2019, which I think LSU's team was a little bit better because they had better defense and whatnot, but in my opinion, a better running back too. But yeah, that's what was Joe Burrow is the other guy I was talking about who that year was just unreal. But I think as far as just consistent accuracy. This dude, Michael Penix, is like, I just can't get over it, man, because it's so fun to watch. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen because he does it over and over and over again. So this is one of the most fun bowl seasons personally that I've watched because I like watching teams like Liberty. I like watching teams like Tulane, because I enjoy watching those. I know a lot of people like to just watch the Power 5 and whatnot, but I enjoy watching those good group of 5 teams play. Even South Florida and Central Florida, I enjoy watching their games. So I thought this was a really good bowl season. And the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl lived up to the hype. Coming into the playoffs, we were saying that anybody can win it, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw a game go in overtime, and we saw a game go literally to the wire. So. You can't ask for more than that just, from a college football fan standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got something else to add, AG?
Yeah, no, not much else there. I agree. That Michigan-Alabama game was it was entertaining, and it was great. But I hate that how it ended. The running it up the gut. I get wanting the ball in Milroe's hands there. He's your best player. You trust him to make a play. Just up the gut when that offensive line, especially the center, had been struggling all game. I hated that play call, obviously. And I think America hated that play call. Would have loved that game to just keep on going and going. But you got to credit Michigan, man. They were the better team in the trenches, and those Alabama offensive line issues that were huge early in the year, finally kind of reared their ugly head again. So, I think, it was pretty shocking to me that Alabama got knocked off and just got out physicaled and all the above. But like you said, Jalen, if Michael Penix comes out and plays like he's been playing pretty much all year, especially if he plays like he did against Texas, then he seems like a man on the mission. Seems pretty pissed off they didn't win the Heisman. I didn't have a problem giving it to Daniels, but I always thought him or Penix had to be the choice. It had to be one of them. So at least it went to one of them. He seems pretty ticked off that, they were underdogs in that game. Most people thought Texas was going to win. That game being in New Orleans, a bunch of Texas fans, like a home game, everyone kind of gave Texas all the love there, and no one really picked Washington. So there's a massive chip on that man's shoulder. I mean, just going back to, transferring out of Indiana and all the injuries that he went through with the Hoosiers. So, a lot of respect for that guy, a lot of respect for Dylan Johnson, the running back who seems to be so banged up and just keeps on pushing and scoring touchdowns 2 or 3 a game, every game it feels like. He's a guy at Mississippi State, of course, and now getting a chance to run the rock a little more there. So, I'm bulling for that Washington team. With all the stuff that's out there against Michigan, it's with Michigan and the sign stealing and all that crap, and it's hard to want them to come out on top of this, especially if there's a chance, the NCAA steps in here at some point with this season. So, hopefully Washington can kind of finish that fairy tale they're kind of on, because I don't know, I love Kalen DeBoer, like you said, Jalen, but it's curious. I'm very curious to see what they're going to look like next year when Will Rogers is the quarterback and not Michael Penix.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's a weird fit.
It definitely is. And look, I told y'all on this show when people were connecting Will Rogers to Kentucky, I was like, he's not the guy. I just don't see what everybody see in there, man, to be honest with you. And look, he's not bad. He's actually pretty good for what he was doing in that offense with Mike Leach and whatnot. But I just don't see it. I just don't. He's not very immobile, but he's immobile. He's not big. He's a pocket passer. That's not a big guy, not a big, strong guy. Arm strength is questionable at times. He was in a very pass-happy offense that, they're dumping the ball 2 yards down the field. And it's going to be a drop-off, no doubt. But, it got a potential to be like, a career-changing drop-off for coaches, because I just don't see it, man. And they're moving to the Big Ten, which and everybody's gonna be gunning for them now. They everybody gunning for you now, man. You on top. You're the best team in the country right now, at least playing the best, in my opinion. So I don't know, man. I just don't see it. But what I found funny was the whole Nick Saban Harbaugh thing at the press conference, when Nick Saban was talking about the integrity of the game, while Harbaugh was sitting like 3 feet away from him. I thought that was hilarious, but maybe it came back to bite him, and Harbaugh ignited his team with that. But I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, like I said, I got Washington winning this thing. I don't want to see Michigan win it either, for whatever. I mean, obviously the cheating thing, it'd be a one hell of a year if they win the national championship the year that this stuff come out. I agree
with that.
I'm sure most of America don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I do respect the way they play the game, though.
Oh yeah,
I like the way they play. They out physical Alabama. They bullied the bully, which is
hard to do.
Bama absolutely bullied Georgia, and Michigan bullied Alabama. Mm-hmm. Michigan bullied Alabama. I mean, they couldn't block them. You saw that, was the 3rd and short or 4th and short where they ran that wedge play, and they were literally knocking Bama 4 and 5 yards back on that play. They're not the number one offensive line in the country every year for no reason. I mean, they got some dogs up front, and it shows. So if they can do that, then they can beat Washington. But if Washington could just somehow slow them down and just lean on that left arm of Michael Penix, I think Washington can pull it out.
And Milroe wasn't able to be as freaky as he'd been all year. I mean, as far as just running lanes and just being head and shoulders the best athlete on the field, running. They were closing him down. They had angles on him. He didn't have gaps. He didn't have room to breathe. Nothing. And I thought, okay, first quarter, okay. And then he'll eventually kind of be able to do his thing. And he never did. And the passing yards were it was meager. It was that at the last play, hindsight's 20/20. Everybody knows that. But look, Jalen, you the X's and O guy here. The old Tebow jump pass. Can we just is that
Yeah,
I love it.
My thing was just give the guy, just give him options. Like I think when you in those situations, y'all know this, but when you get inside of the 15, but definitely the 10 and most definitely the 5-yard line, things happen quicker. You're probably going to get man blitz. There's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of room. Find a way to get guys out, get your eligibles out and routes to give him options. So if the play does break down, that he can use his legs as a last resort, but give him options. I think the fact that you run, the snap was bad, so that threw him off.
Talk about how that affects the quarterback.
Man. Don't get me started. Luckily, I've never had to deal with that ever. I've never dealt with snaps that bad in my life. To be honest with you, we had some high school centers that struggled from time to time. But on this level of football, guys, that's the worst I've ever seen. Somebody charted it. It was like 48% of the snaps were off target. Off target meaning out of the frame, out of his body frame, out of Milroe's frame. The ball was outside of him or on his toes. So you can't play quarterback consistently that way. There's no way you can play quarterback consistently that way, especially in the playoffs where the team you're going against is probably the best team that you played all year. So, it's just impossible to play quarterback that way. I've never seen Nick Saban not make an adjustment throughout the season when this guy's been doing this consistently. They must not have anybody else to put in, but, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen because I never thought I would see this, to this level, on this level. I never thought, a Power 5 school, Bama at that, will have these type of issues. But on the flip side, I did say I was watching an Auburn game. Yeah, Alabama Center's in the portal now. But I was watching the Auburn game, and I was like, if Jalen Milroe and the offensive coordinator don't get this passing game together, they're going to lose a game. Mm-hmm. Because you go back and watch that game, there's so many guys running wide open. There were so many guys running open against Georgia. There were so many guys running open against Michigan. He's just not seeing it. Mm-hmm. He's not seeing it. He's not getting to it quick enough when he do see it. So that was an issue. I don't know if it's the scheme. I don't know if it's the coach, and I don't know if it's the quarterback. It could be a mixture of everything. Usually that's what it is. But, I was like, they didn't get high enough quarterback play. Put it like this. If Michael Penix was on that team, they beat Michigan by a couple scores, I think, because he had some guys running open. Yeah. If you watch the end zone copy, he had some guys running open that I don't know how he didn't see. And the offensive line was an issue too, but they had a lot of issues going on, to be honest with you.
Talk about too real quick you retweeted, I don't know if it's CBS Sports with the helmet cam about how hard that is, and sometimes no matter how tall you are, you still really can't see. You just kind of have a feel. So I'm so happy that more people are starting to post like helmet cam footage. So people in their living rooms or the average pedestrian that watches college or NFL football or high school football like that, to that point can kind of see like, dude, even on a helmet cam, which is like 2 or 3 inches higher than Tua's eyes, you still can't see much. It's still hard. It's still hard to see downfield. So that just goes to show you how tough it is to pass from the pocket. Especially if you're having issues up front with your OL. So maybe that's part of Milroe's issue too.
but it is tough to do, man. Like it is. Like it, because a lot of times you don't really see your guy coming open. You know that he's coming open based on what you saw a couple milliseconds ago. You know what I'm saying? You don't really see it happening sometimes. You have faith and trust where he's going, and you have faith and trust what you previously saw that you can throw that ball. So, you know, if people tell you that, hey, this 6'4" guy, he's going to be able to see over the line, they're lying to you. You know, that's just not the truth all the time. Like most of the time at quarterback, you're seeing in between linemen, and you're seeing, you know, if your drop is deep enough, you can see over certain guys at certain points, but you're never just standing back there looking over them. You know, these linemen on that level, they're 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", sometimes even 6'9". You know, you're not, trust me, you're not seeing over those guys. You got big D linemen who are about the same height, sometimes even taller, who sometimes get their hands up. It's not about seeing over them. It's about knowing what the defense is doing, knowing where your routes are going, and having a feel for the game. You have to feel it. Like you can't sit back and I remember it was the game we played Louisville. We lost the game, unfortunately, but I threw a touchdown to Alex Montgomery in the end zone towards the locker room, and I had no idea where Alex was when I threw the ball. No idea whatsoever. I didn't know where he was, you know, and that play always stood out to me because I was like, man, I wish people could like experience this because I didn't even see him at all. I just knew based on the play that we were running where he was supposed to be. I did not see him. So, you know, that's just how it goes. You know, playing. I can only imagine what Kyler Murray feels. You know, I can only imagine. You got to, you know, move the pocket with him and let him scramble and do his thing because he just a lot of times, especially with the quick game stuff, he sometimes just don't see it. You got trees in front of you, man.
Yeah, and I wonder. You mentioned the wide receivers getting wide open, and obviously, you know, there was a lot of that, you know, when Kentucky played Alabama this year, and Milroe did hit on it. And I just wonder, you know, obviously, you look at Jermaine Burton, 798 yards. Isaiah Bond's a really good player, but you know, it just feels like the last couple of years, and maybe I'm wrong, it's still Alabama and they still got some dudes, but they haven't had that wide receiver where, I mean, they've had 7 at the same time at one point where it's just must get them the ball no matter what, trust it no matter what. And it just seemed like maybe, you know, Milroe didn't have a guy that he felt like no matter what he could trust and get the ball to where, you know, if you even remember the national championship against Georgia a couple of years ago that they lost, the guy was Williams, you know, the guy with the Lions right now. I don't know why I'm tripping on his first name. Jameson. Thank you. Jameson Williams. And then he goes down and their passing game completely, that was it, you know. Yeah. And obviously Alabama had a 2-loss season last year, but I don't know. That was kind of one of my thinkings. Like, is Alabama just missing that star wideout for Milroe to just say, screw it, you know, I'm going to him? Like the, you know, Kyler Murray quote saying, F it, I'm going to D-Hop. Like, do they need that type of dude again in Tuscaloosa? Or it was just weird not seeing, like you said, from what I saw of some of the clips I saw on Twitter, people breaking it down, it looked like he had some open guys and maybe just wasn't trusting his reads, wasn't trusting those guys.
Yeah, I think part of it is just the cycle of life. They had like 2017, 18, 19, where they had the best receivers in the country probably, where they had Judy, Ruggs, Smith. I mean they were loaded at receiver for like 5 or 6 years straight. They had like legit 3 receivers that are playing in the NFL right now. They're all starting on the field, you know, for like 5. It was like 5 years in a row. So maybe it's just a cycle of life where, you know, they just in a down period right now. But I personally believe that it's partially the receiver coach. Because to be honest with you, when I watch their film, like even a couple times against Michigan, he's throwing the ball and receivers are not turning around on time. That has been the case for the past 3 years. Bryce Young was just so good that he covered up a lot of stuff. Like watching Bama's film, if you go back and watch the film from like 2021, 2022, and obviously this year, they hadn't had, you know, detail at receiver. Kind of what we were talking about with Berryon and the receivers at Kentucky. You can tell that the detail is not there. Like they're not running, you know, it's not cohesive. They're not all on the same page. It doesn't look like all one heartbeat when it comes to the passing game. Bryce Young was just the best player in the country, so they got away with it from time to time. But, it's the recruiting, maybe that's not been up to par, at least to Alabama standards. But I also think it's whatever it is, it's the cohesiveness between receiver and quarterback hasn't been as good since Mac Jones left.
Yeah, no doubt about
it. And this quote unquote down year for Alabama is 11-2, and you win the SEC championship, and you make it to the Final Four, and give Michigan the game in the playoff. A lot of teams would trade with them, and you want to say they're dead, and the dynasty's over, but they'll be in a revenge tour next year, just like Georgia will be. So
yeah, hey, watch out for Georgia next year, man.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback coming back. I mean, dude, they're gonna reload, man. They're gonna be ready to go. They feel like they got. And look, no disrespect whatsoever to Florida State, but we all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest with you, I didn't know it was going to be a 60-point victory. I didn't know they were going to win by 60. That was always a joke to people saying, "Hey, they're going to beat Florida State by 60 points. They're going to beat them by 50."
Oh,
well, they actually beat them by 60 points. So that's kind of crazy, man. When you think about it, you look at the list of transfers, opt-outs, or injured players. You look at that list, and it's about the same. Georgia and Florida State were about the same. It's just, to be honest with you, Florida State, they're missing the quarterback, but they're just not on that level, man. And they got through, they got by with it this year, but they're not on that level. That's a whole nother level. And to be honest with you, I still think that Georgia's the best team in the country. They just happened to lose to a team that just played really good that day in the SEC championship game. But if you put Georgia in the playoffs, Georgia will be playing for the national championship game on Monday.
I think we'll be winning the national championship game, I think.
Yeah. So that's just what it is. They were the real snub. Georgia was, not Florida State.
Yeah, so I think that was the point they were trying to prove in that one. And they were also, like Kirby Smart said, they were trying to show, hey, you got to do something about this bowl season stuff where you're still having some really good games. Like, Kentucky fans got, I guess I can't say they got blessed with because they lost, but at least they had one of the more entertaining games of the cycle. There were some other really good ones throughout bowl season. I mean, the LSU-Wisconsin game was really good. So, but all these opt-outs, they got to figure something out. The timing of these games, incentive, making, I don't know, money, getting people to play this game, convincing them that, hey, I should play this game. I will be okay. I won't screw up my draft stock type thing. So Kirby Smart also wanted to prove that point that, hey, they're out everybody and we're bought in and we're going to have to stick it to them to prove a couple points here.
I think it's an easy fix, though. Easy fix.
What is it?
To get guys to play in the bowl games. A lot of people ain't going to like this, but it is what it is. You put in their NIL deal to where, hey, if you want to get this percentage of the money, you have to agree to play in the bowl game. If you don't play, you don't get it, or you got to pay it back, or somehow, whatever, work it out. Or you could put, hey, if you play in the bowl game, you're now qualified to receive whatever, X amount of dollars just because you played in the bowl game. And make it, these schools got enough money, man, these boosters and collectors got enough money where they can make this thing worthwhile and get that done. I wouldn't be shocked if some schools are doing that behind the scenes anyway. Hey, you play in the bowl game, we'll break you off X amount of dollars and send you on your way. Why not? You know what I'm saying? We're doing everything else now. I mean, why not do that? So
like a clause.
Yeah, put a clause. That's an easy fix, man. Like, okay, we'll set this thing up. We'll pay you, $300,000 of NIL money this year. However, you won't receive X amount unless you sign and agree to play in the bowl game or in whatever else they got going on. So, you can fix that. Now, if guys still don't do it, then I don't have your answer, but I think, you know, a lot of times, especially to young people, money is the answer.
No doubt.
No. Oh,
yeah, or something with guarantees with injuries too would help too.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of insurance, something.
Yeah, I'm sure
that's the fear, I guess.
Yeah, and I think some schools, I don't know if it's legal for the schools to do it, but they find a way to get insurance policies. You can't tell me that, you know, Bryce Young and what's the DN from Bama last year?
Will Anderson.
Yeah,
Bo Nix even this year.
Yeah, they played the Sugar Bowl. You know they had some
Blake
crazy.
Neighbors played in the Outback Bowl or whatever they're calling that thing now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yep.
Wrap it up, man. The SEC play starts in Gainesville. So the first real road game for the Cats is at Florida. And then, little layoffs between Saturday and Illinois State. So we'll see. I saw you put a piece out on the Cats polls about, we'll see how much progress they made as far as rebounding is concerned.
Yeah.
You're going up against a good rebounding team in Florida.
Yeah, really good rebounding team, leading the country in just total rebounds. I'll have to go look at what their rebounding margin is, but they got a lot of size. You have a 6'10" forward who's leading the SEC in shooting percentage, and then second in rebounding. They have a 7-foot transfer from Marshall, so they've got a lot of size, and they can make things happen in that regard. And they're a good offensive team. They rank 12th in points per game. They're not great defensively, but they rebound. So if you miss, they're going to get the ball. Yeah, they're plus 11 in rebound margin. So rebound margin, they're 13th best. And then Texas A&M, who Kentucky plays next weekend, is also a plus 11 rebounding team. So you got some really good rebounding teams coming up. And, I think that was my main thing with the Illinois State game that caused some concern. I don't know how you can't be a little concerned when you give up 24 offensive rebounds. A 6'7" dude has 15 boards on the game. You get out rebounded by over 10 against Illinois State. Obviously Kentucky can shoot the lights out of the ball and score 90 every night potentially, but there's going to be those one or two games where the offense has an off day, and we saw it against UNCW. Kentucky didn't shoot the ball great. They didn't rebound great. They lost the game. So you go into SEC play when you're playing some pretty good teams. You're playing physical teams. You do that, you're going to drop a game or two. So, I'm sure there's been a lot of rebounding work in practice this week. I'm sure that's been a heavy emphasis. Aaron Bradshaw and Ugana Onyenso kind of got put on notice after the game with, Cal giving some tough love, talking about how he cannot play them if they're not going to rebound. And right on point, man. I mean, we've seen how good they can be with a small ball lineup. And if those 2 7-footers aren't going to come in and rebound, what are they doing, right? So I'm cool with that, and we'll see how they respond down in Gainesville. Again, this is a solid Florida team. They're 10-3. They rebuilt through the portal. They were kind of having some momentum. Last year SEC play, they were a 500 team and had a big win over Tennessee. Had a couple other big wins that are slipping me right now. So it's a pretty tough starting point in SEC play, but it's a team Kentucky's handled for the most part the last couple of years. I think only one loss in their last 9 against them. Haven't lost down at the O-Dome since 2018. So, momentum's on their side in this series, but, you want to go out there and get a big win to start conference play because, they should be able to handle Missouri Tuesday, but then you go on the road to A&M. You want to at least go 1-1 in that stretch, and it would be big, to start SEC play off on the right foot. And it would be a quad 1 win, too. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we'll talk about all that next Wednesday. What else you got, man, coming down the pipe in the Cats polls, man? Everybody go check out your work.
Yeah, we're obviously it's full go on basketball now. I mean, we'll have obviously football news as it happens. We'll get cranked up again at the end of February and into early March with spring ball, and there'll be some football stories here and there coming out next couple of months. But obviously, it's basketball that has the show right now, and SEC play, a lot of road trips I get to make coming up here, so I'm excited about that. And it should be really exciting. I think there's a lot of excitement for this Kentucky, but obviously there's always excitement when you're talking Kentucky basketball. But the way this team has played at times this year, the way they've dominated some really good teams, got a really good win against Carolina. the SEC, the way that it stacks up, this should be a pretty fun couple of months. We're about to tip off on Saturday, rather.
Yeah. And what about your Knicks? They traded them in quickly.
I know. I was when I first saw that, I was annoyed because obviously I covered Quick, and I loved covering him. I loved watching him play. I loved his attitude. Obviously, not playing much his first year, coming back, and being a first team All SEC guy. Wish we got to see him play in that NCAA tournament, of course. But that is what it is. But as far as the trade, I understand it. I think OJ Anunoby is kind of what they want RJ Barrett to be, where he's a total player, plays really good defense, solid offensively. He already had a pretty good first game there, beat a really good Minnesota team. So, I was okay with that aspect of it, but I hated to see that Quick had to go to get it done.
Yeah. And, your fan base better than we do, but, there's the Knicks fans, they're not Philly fans, but they can be hard to win over.
No, they can
hard
be.
for them to embrace guys. They loved Quickly. And there was a lot of pissed off Knicks fans when they saw this trade go down.
Yeah, and I think we were all kind of happy to let the RJ Barrett thing end. It just never fully worked out with the Knicks. Not to say he was a bad player, bad dude or anything. I just, it ran its course, but would have been it sucked that Quickly had to be part of it, because I think OG's a really good fit for that team. But man, like you said, what New Yorkers appreciate the most are guys who scrap, maybe not, you don't think of them as a star, and then they bust onto the scene and kind of just bust their butt, go to work, and get results every night. And that's what Quickly did. I mean, he's a pretty consistent player. Did a lot of good things, and obviously, hopefully, the rest of the season goes well in Toronto, and then he's going to be a free agent, so chance to get paid somewhere.
So far, so good. He's had 5 threes against Memphis tonight, last count. So he's smoothly transitioning into his Toronto.
He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid pretty good money to be a 6 or a starter somewhere this offseason. I'm excited to see what that contract is for him.
And you mentioned that 2020 team. Tyrese Maxey is killing it with Philly, Quickly in New York. Nick Richards in Charlotte, the poor Hornets.
He's honestly, he got a second contract.
But so that's the core of that team right there. And guys are doing well in the league, and my God, Shea.
Sestina's still playing overseas too.
Yeah, and Shea in Oklahoma City. I mean, he wasn't on that team.
He's a top 10. He might be a top 5 player in the league right now, I think. And what's their record? They're in really good shape, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they beat Boston last night.
Yeah, they're 23. They lost tonight, so they're 23-10. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, Casey Wallace is contributing down there. And,
he's going to be a guy who's going to. I'm not going to say he's going to tick off Kentucky fans, but it's going to be another one of those. Where was this when he was here? That's good. I mean, not to say obviously Tyrese was a solid player, fan favorite, but I mean he's just taking on a whole new. He's just a whole new dude in the NBA. He's 10 times better. And same with Keldon Johnson, right? He did it in spurts at Kentucky. He was kind of a glue guy for that team that went to the Elite Eight. But, I mean, he's a borderline star down there in San Antonio, just not getting recognized as much because they lose a lot down there. But he was on the Olympic team, wasn't he? I mean, it's a pretty big accomplishment.
So keep up with all that. Every game Kentucky plays in league play, NBA cats are doing, the portal, football, all the sports. We'll keep up with it. We'll bring it to you each and every week. Appreciate everybody jumping in here and commenting and following us on Twitter and YouTube and interacting. We definitely appreciate that. Y'all keep it up. We'll be back next week doing the same thing. If you want to advertise your business or product, we love to endorse it and promote it on the show as well. So appreciate everybody that took time to come and check us out. So for Jalen Whitlow, Aaron Gershon, my name is Vinny Hardy. Go Cats, beat the Gators, and we'll holler at everybody next week on Believe in Kentucky, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network.